I didn't realize I was lost at first. That's the strange part. You never do. I thought I was just tired. Mentally tired, the kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from too many decisions, too many wrong turns that pile up quietly until one day you wake up and realize you don't recognize your own life anymore. I was driving at night, coming back from a town I barely remembered agreeing to visit. The road was narrow, the kind that doesn't bother with streetlights. Trees leaned inward from both sides, their branches forming a loose tunnel above the asphalt. My GPS had stopped working an hour earlier, stuck on a loading screen that never finished. I wasn't worried. Not yet. I knew the general direction. I always did, or at least I thought I did. The radio played softly, some late-night talk show where the host sounded half asleep. I wasn't really listening. My mind kept drifting to things I hadn't done, calls I'd avoided, decisions I'd postponed until later, or word that had quietly replaced all my plans. I missed a turn. I didn't notice it immediately. The road curved gently, and I followed it without thinking. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The trees grew thicker. The radio dissolved into static. I slowed the car and checked the dashboard clock. It was the same time it had been the last time I checked. That was when I felt it. Not fear. Not yet. Just a subtle sense of wrongness. Like a word on the tip of your tongue that refuses to surface. I pulled over. The engine idled softly. The night pressed in around me, quiet and heavy. No insects. No wind. Just the distant hum of something I couldn't place. I stepped out of the car. The air smelled damp, like old leaves and stone. The road behind me looked exactly the same as the road ahead. No signs. No markings, just asphalt vanishing into darkness. I laughed quietly to myself. Get a grip, I muttered. I checked my phone again. No signal, not even an emergency bar. When I looked up, I saw the lights. Warm, yellow lights. Not distant houses. They were close. Too close for something I hadn't noticed moments before. I stared, confused, as the darkness ahead softened, revealing a small clearing just off the road. A narrow path led away from the asphalt, and at the end of it stood a building. It was old, but not ruined. Stone walls, weathered by time, with a wooden door and several windows glowing from within. A single lantern hung near the entrance, swaying slightly, though there was no wind. I was certain the place hadn't been there before. I stood very still, waiting for my brain to catch up, to explain it away. Maybe I'd just been too focused on the road. Maybe exhaustion was playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. There was something about the building that felt expectant, like it had been waiting. I walked toward it. The path crunched softly under my boots. With every step, a strange calm settled over me. Not comfort, something else, like resignation mixed with relief. As I reached the door, it opened. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just naturally, as if it had been expecting my hand on the handle and didn't want to bother with the formality. Inside was warm. A fireplace crackled softly, filling the space with amber light. The room was larger than it looked from outside, with a high ceiling and wooden beams darkened by age. Shelves lined the walls, filled with objects that didn't seem to belong together. Books, clocks, framed photographs, small boxes, keys. Several people sat around the room. They looked ordinary. That was the most unsettling thing. A woman in her 40s stood near the fire, hands wrapped around a mug. A younger man sat at a table, staring down at his fingers. An elderly couple occupied a bench by the wall, their shoulders touching. They all looked up when I entered. No surprise, no alarm, just recognition. "You're lost," the woman by the fire said. It wasn't a question. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. I didn't know how to respond. "I took a wrong turn," I said finally. She smiled, gently. "That's how it always starts." I frowned. "What is this place?" The woman tilted her head slightly, considering. "It doesn't have a name," she said. "Names are for places that stay." The younger man at the table let out a quiet, humorless laugh. "Or for places that want to be found," he added. I looked at him. He didn't meet my eyes. I should have left. That instinct flickered briefly, like a match struck in the dark. But before I could catch, something else smothered it. The feeling that leaving now would be a mistake. That whatever this place was, it wasn't. Done with me. Sit, the woman said, gesturing to an empty chair near the fire. I hesitated. You don't have to, she added. But you will, I sat. The chair was warm, as if someone had been sitting there moments ago. What happens now? I asked. The elderly man spoke this time. His voice was soft, tired. Now, he said, you decide whether you want to stay lost. The words settled into the room, heavy and strange. I don't understand, I said. That's normal, the woman replied. No one understands at first. The younger man finally looked up at me. His eyes were sharp, alert in a way that suggested he hadn't slept well in a long time. This place, he said, only exists when you don't know where you're going anymore. Not just on the road. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. That's ridiculous, I said. I know where I'm going. The woman didn't argue. Instead, she asked, then why did you stop the car? I opened my mouth to answer and realized I didn't have one. Silence filled the room, broken only by the fire. I felt suddenly exposed, like someone had reached inside me and gently turned everything inside out. The elderly woman leaned forward slightly. We don't keep people here, she said. We offer them something. I swallowed. What? The woman by the fire stepped closer. Clarity, she said. Direction. An answer to the question you've been avoiding. My heart beat faster. And the cost? I asked. Her smile faded just a little. There's always a cost. The younger man snorted softly. You don't pay it now, he said. You pay it later. I stood up abruptly. No, I said. This is insane. I'm leaving. No one stopped me. That was worse. I reached the door and pulled it open. Outside there was nothing. Not darkness. Not the road. Just fog. Thick, pale fog that swallowed the world entirely. I froze, staring into it. The fog didn't move. It didn't swirl or drift. It waited. I felt a hand gently touch my shoulder. You can't leave yet, the woman said softly. You haven't finished being lost. I turned back toward the room. The fire still burned. The people still waited. The door closed behind me with a quiet finality. My breath came faster now. What do you want from me? I demanded. The woman returned to her place by the fire. Nothing, she said. We want what you want. That doesn't make sense. She met my eyes. Then tell us, she said, why you've been running. The words hit me harder than I expected. I'm not running, I said. The younger man laughed again, sharper this time. That's what I said too. I looked at him. How long have you been here? He shrugged. Hard to say. Time works differently when you're not moving forward. The elderly couple exchanged a glance. Long enough, the man said, to forget what it felt like to arrive anywhere. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. This is some kind of trap, I said. A trick. No, the woman replied. It's a mirror. She walked to one of the shelves and picked up a small framed photograph. She handed it to me. I looked down. It was me, or someone who looked exactly like me. Standing in an office I recognized instantly. Younger, confident, smiling in a way I barely remembered how to do. My stomach twisted. That's not real, I said. It could have been, she replied. I dropped the photo like it burned. The room felt smaller now. You show people things, I said slowly, to make them stay. The woman nodded. Sometimes. And if they don't? She hesitated. Then the place disappears, she said. And what happens to them? I asked. The elderly woman answered. They leave, she said. Changed. The younger man leaned forward. You don't leave with everything you came in with, he said. That's the rule. I looked around the room, suddenly noticing details I'd missed before. The clocks on the wall were all stopped, each at a different time. Some of the photographs on the shelves had faces scratched out. The keys hung from hooks, none of them labeled. What did you give up? I asked the younger man. He stared at his hands. My certainty, he said. I used to know who I was, what I wanted. Now, I stay here, helping others, because it's easier than choosing again. I turned to the elderly couple. Our memories? The woman said quietly. Not all of them. Just the ones that hurt the most. And you? I asked the woman by the fire. She smiled sadly. My future? The fire popped, sending a small shower of sparks upward. And you? She asked me. I shook my head. Nothing. I'm not making a deal, she nodded. Then you'll wonder. The fog pressed against the windows now, pale and close. If you leave without choosing, she continued, you'll stay lost. You'll move, but you won't arrive. Roads will blur. Days will pass. You'll feel like something is missing, but you won't know what. My chest tightened. And if I choose? She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Then you'll arrive somewhere, she said. But you won't be the same person who started the journey. I closed my eyes. Images flooded my mind, unfinished conversations, half-lived dreams, the quiet dread of waking up years from now and realizing nothing had changed. How do I know this isn't just my mind? I whispered. The woman placed a hand over her heart. Because you recognize this place, she said. Even before you saw it. I opened my eyes. The fog outside pulsed gently, like a living thing. What happens if I stay? I asked. The younger man met my gaze. You stop pretending you're going somewhere, he said. And that's a kind of peace. I looked at the door. Somewhere beyond the fog was the road, my car, the life I'd been drifting through. What if I regret it? I asked. The elderly man smiled faintly. You will, he said. No matter what you choose, the fire crackled. The room waited. I thought about all the times I'd told myself I'd decide later. Later had finally caught up. I stood. I want to leave, I said. The woman nodded, unsurprised. Then you must give something, she said. What? She looked at me carefully. The thing that keeps you standing still, she said. I didn't answer right away. Then I realized what she meant. Hope, not the good kind. The kind that says someday without ever becoming today. My throat tightened. If I give that up, I said, what's left? She smiled gently. Movement, she said. I nodded once. The fog outside receded, the door opened. Beyond it, the road stretched out, dark and empty. I stepped forward. As I crossed the threshold, something inside me loosened, like a knot finally undone. It hurt, it ached, but it also felt clean. I turned, instinctively, to look back. The building was gone. No clearing, no path, no light. Just the road and the trees. I stood there for a long time, breathing in the cold night air. And I got in my car. The GPS lit up immediately. I drove. I don't know where I'll end up. But for the first time in a long while, I'm not waiting to find out. I thought leaving would be the end of it. That's what the place implied. That once you stepped back onto the road, once the building vanished and the fog lifted, you were free. Changed maybe, but free. I was wrong. At first, nothing felt unusual. I drove for hours. The road eventually merged with a highway. Traffic appeared. Radio stations returned. Streetlights lined the asphalt like obedient soldiers. Normal life resumed with an almost insulting ease. I slept in my own bed that night. I woke up to my alarm. I went to work. People spoke to me. The world behaved. And yet, something subtle had shifted. Not in the world. In me. I noticed it the first time I hesitated at a crossroads downtown. 2 streets. One led toward my office. The other toward a neighborhood I used to walk through years ago. Back when I still thought about things like purpose and direction, I stood there longer than necessary. A strange pressure built behind my eyes, like the world was waiting for me to make a choice it cared about. I shook it off and went to work. But the feeling followed me. Every decision felt heavier than before. Not harder, clearer. As if the fog I'd been living in had been stripped away, leaving nothing to hide behind. I started noticing places. Not landmarks. Not destinations. Thresholds. Doorways I paused in too long. Intersections that made my pulse quicken. Elevators that felt wrong when the doors closed. And sometimes, only sometimes, I caught myself looking for a path that wasn't there. I didn't talk about it. I told myself this was just what clarity felt like. The cost of giving up the illusion that someday would fix everything. Weeks passed. Then I saw the building again. It wasn't at night. That was what terrified me most. It was late afternoon. The sun low but still bright, casting long shadows across a side street I rarely used. I was walking home, lost in thought, replaying a conversation I'd avoided for years. I rounded a corner, and there it was. Not the same road, not the same forest, but the same building, stone walls, wooden door, lantern by the entrance. Standing between a closed laundromat and a brick apartment building like it had always belonged there. I stopped so abruptly someone nearly walked into me. The street around it looked normal. Cars passed. A bus hissed to a stop down the block. People walked by without slowing. No one looked at the building. My heart hammered. I stepped closer. The lantern was unlit. The windows were dark. The door was closed. I didn't touch it. I backed away instead, every instinct screaming that this was wrong, that the rules had changed, that I wasn't supposed to see it again. That night I dreamed of fog, not the gentle kind. Thick, unmoving, pressing in on all sides. I stood in it, unable to tell if I was walking forward or standing still. Then a voice spoke, not from ahead, not from behind, but from everywhere. "You left too early." I woke up gasping. The dreams became frequent. Each time, the building was different. Sometimes it stood at the end of a hallway that never ended. Sometimes it rose from the middle of a field under a starless sky. Once, horrifyingly, it appeared inside my own apartment, occupying the space where my bedroom should have been. Always closed, always waiting, I started avoiding decisions. That was the mistake. I told myself I was being cautious, thoughtful. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was drifting again. And the place was noticing. The next time I saw it, the door was open. It appeared at a bus stop I didn't remember choosing. I'd boarded the bus on autopilot, stared out the window, let myself go blank. When the bus stopped, I stepped off without thinking. The building stood across the street. The lantern burned. Someone was inside. I knew because I saw movement behind the window. I didn't run. That terrified me more than anything else. I crossed the street slowly. Each step felt inevitable. The moment I reached the threshold, the world behind me softened. Sounds dulled. Colors faded. The door opened before I touched it. Inside the room was almost the same. The fire burned. The shelves lined the walls. The clocks were stopped, but the people were different. The elderly couple was gone. So was the younger man. Only the woman by the fire remained. She looked exactly the same. "You came back," she said. "I didn't mean to," I whispered. She smiled gently. "No one ever does." I scanned the room. "Where are the others?" "They arrived," she said simply. A chill ran through me. "Arrived where?" She met my eyes. "You know the answer to that," I swallowed. "Why am I here again?" She gestured toward the chair by the fire. "You're drifting," she said. "You gave up false hope, but you didn't replace it with direction." "I'm moving," I said weakly. "Yes," she agreed, "but you're not choosing." I clenched my fists. "You said I could leave." "You did," she said. "Leaving isn't the same as being done." I looked at the shelves. New objects had appeared. A cracked phone, a wallet, a pair of keys that looked familiar. My keys. "When you left," she continued, "you took clarity. But clarity alone doesn't move you forward. It only shows you when you're standing still. What do you want from me?" I asked. She stepped closer. "Nothing new," she said. "Only the rest of the cost." My stomach dropped. "I already paid," I said. "You paid to leave," she corrected. "Not to finish." I backed away. "No, I'm not doing this again." She didn't stop me as I turned toward the door. Outside there was no fog. There was a street, a normal street. But something was wrong. People stood frozen mid-step. A car idled at an intersection, unmoving. A bird hung motionless in the air. Time itself had paused. "This is what happens," the woman said softly behind me, "when you refuse to choose for too long." I turned back to her. "What are you saying? You're becoming lost again," she said. "Not on the road. In motion." The fear hit me then, sharp and undeniable. "If I don't choose," I whispered, "I'll end up like them?" She nodded. "Or like the place," she added. I stared at her. "What does that mean?" Her expression softened. "Someone has to wait," she said. The room felt suddenly smaller. You want me to stay, I said. Only if you stop moving altogether, she replied. I looked again at the frozen street. My life paused. I don't want this, I said. Then choose, she said simply. The words echoed. Choose, not later. Not someday. Now. I thought of the things I'd avoided, the calls I hadn't made, the decisions I'd postponed because committing meant losing other possibilities. The building hummed softly, like it was listening. I can't see the future, I said. She smiled. Neither could anyone who arrived. I closed my eyes. And for the first time, I didn't wait for certainty. I made a choice. When I opened my eyes, the fire had gone out. The woman was gone. The shelves were empty. The building trembled like a reflection disturbed by water. I stepped backward through the door. The world snapped back into motion. Sound rushed in. Cars moved. People walked. The bird flew. The building was gone. I stood alone on the street, heart pounding. This time the feeling was different. The pressure behind my eyes was gone. The road ahead didn't feel clear, but it felt real. I started walking. I don't know if the place is gone forever. I don't know if it will appear again someday, but I understand the rule now. It doesn't appear when you're lost on the road. It appears when you stop choosing where you're going, and it waits quietly, patiently. For the moment, you forget that movement isn't the same as direction.